Hello, my friends. It's Catherine Ewing here on my personal page, my Catherine Ewing page. Uh, I'm hoping you're all doing very well. As I posted earlier on both this page and my group page, Birth Your Brilliance, I wanted to come on tonight. Hey, Carolyn, how are you? I wanted to come on tonight and talk about this pandemic, this crisis, which may also be an opportunity, that we're all experiencing together. I've been saying to people, this is an equal opportunity. Hi, Christina. It's an equal opportunity virus, if you will, right? No one is immune. And the bad news is that no one is immune. And the good news is that for me, hi Mary, this points out the fact of sort of unity consciousness, right? We really are one. no one, no one has anything special or different about them that's going to make them immune to this virus. But before I jump into the information that I wanted to share, as people start to come on, again, never knowing how many people will be joining us, I did want to take just a couple of moments and sort of set the stage. I ran over to my office. Hi, Ruth. I ran over to my office the other day, ironically, to leave a rent check for an office I won't be using for the next month. But hey, the bills still have to get paid, right? And so I went over and dropped that off. And while I was there, I picked up my tingshaws. I've been using my Tibetan bowl here on the tapping groups that I've been doing, and even working with some clients individually. And I was missing my little tingshaws, which I usually have in my office. And oftentimes when clients come in, if they're just feeling anxious or sort of out of sorts, or I don't know, maybe they got an earache or a toothache, or they just had a fight with their significant other, often before we start the session, I will just sort of clear their energy field with these beautiful bells. And so I thought I would start with the bells this evening, the tingshaws. And if you can imagine, of course, I can't see you, but you can close your eyes. And what I'm going to do, what I generally do with clients, is just kind of do a chakra clearing, to sort of just balance and align the chakra system and the energies. And so if you imagine, that I will progressively use the tingshaws above your head, hi Peggy, above your head, in front of your third eye, in front of your throat, in front of your heart, hey Shirley, in front of your solar plexus, in front of your sacral chakra, or just below your belly button, and then your root chakra down, right by your perineum, where or the end of your tailbone. So I'm just going to take a moment as people continue to gather, and take a breath and just allow the beautiful sound. I hope this comes through to you as beautifully as it sounds to me. So again, if you want to close or you lower your eyes for a moment, just feel free as I begin to use the tingshaws here. I'm feeling a little better already. I love the way just these little instruments can cut right through the discordant energy in the energy field and really very quickly bring a sense of balance and coherence in what might have been scattered or discordant or incoherent energy. So I'm so grateful for my little tingshaws. We'll use them again at the end before we disperse this evening. And the other thing, oh good, Tammy, I'm glad. And the other thing that I would like to do before I get sort of into the content part is just take a moment to be together in prayer. And so whatever whomever you pray to, whether it's nature, whether it's Father God, Mother God, universe, creator, source, all that is, right? Divine mind, whatever languaging we want to use here, we know now, I think more than ever, that we are truly one. That is both a distressing part of this, that no one is immune, but also a beautiful awareness that many of us have been holding for many years and is being confirmed, right? We are all one. There is a unity consciousness that holds us all together. So just being together in that space of unity consciousness, and we pray, Divine Beloved, please be present with us here this evening as we gather with hearts somewhat broken, with our sadness, perhaps our fear or anxiety, our confusion, our uncertainty, or perhaps even a sense of excitement for what may unfold as we move through this crisis. But in no way do we want to do any kind of spiritual bypassing. The pain, the sorrow, the sadness, the suffering that people are experiencing now. We invite your divine light and love to be present in us all through these challenging times, to lift us up, to heal every cell in our body, to balance our minds and our hearts, to allow us to be generous and compassionate, to find ways to support ourselves and each other as we continue to move through this uncertainty. We are grateful for the opportunity to be here together virtually this evening, because while we are physically distanced, we are certainly not emotionally or psychologically or socially distant from each other. We are all connected. We are all one in this beautiful web of life. And I ask that you hold all of us in your loving embrace. Amen. So I want to take you on a little journey. It's a little personal journey of mine, and it'll provide some context for what this whole idea of seeing this pandemic, this COVID, this coronavirus, through a higher perspective or through higher spiritual eyes. And so I need to, share a little bit about my journey. Some of you already know this. Some of you might be saying, oh no, is she going to talk about that again? But for those who may not know me so well and don't know my history, I think it's important to sort of share. And I'm going to go back about 25 years to when I actually started working as a psychotherapist, which is something I never imagined I would do. When I got my degree in social work, I was not interested in psychotherapy. In fact, I avoided it like the plague, because I didn't, at that time in my early 20s, I was a bit arrogant, maybe saw too many Woody Allen movies, and I just thought of psychotherapy as something that wealthy, sort of indulgent people did, right? Sitting around contemplating their belly buttons. And so I had no desire for that. My focus and my desire was in a different direction, very grassroots social work. I, was a community organizing and a women's studies major. And so I did things like domestic violence and rape counseling, rape crisis work, and child abuse and union organizing for women. Yes, I had my Norma Ray moment. I was carried out by the security guards in one of my assignments. And so I was really a very, very grassroots social worker. And I never imagined that I would do anything but work in the trenches where the real work was getting done. And then I had my kids, and when I was on maternity leave with my youngest daughter, well, my only daughter, my youngest child, she was born in 93, I started to get a little nudge in my head, a little voice in my head about going into psychotherapy. And I was like, yeah, no, that's not happening. But as it turned out, I followed the prompting of the voice in my head, and I contacted someone that I had worked together with. She was a psychologist when I was at DCF running the sexual abuse unit, and we did a lot of trainings together around child sexual abuse, with the multidisciplinary teams. And I ended up joining a practice in Glastonbury where she was one of the two, primary partners. And I stayed there for about 12 years. But I almost didn't last more than a couple of years, because when I got there, I quickly realized, whether it was my lack of training, I'm sure that was part of it, but I found that I did not fit well in sort of a medical model. There were many things about it that I struggled with. One was just the talk therapy, which didn't really seem to be that effective in helping my clients achieve deep healing or transformation. So that was frustrating to me, both for them and for myself. I was going home every day with a headache saying, I don't think I can keep doing this. I have never liked diagnosing people. Again, remember, I was not trained clinically, so I was sort of coming in to psychotherapy with a clean slate, even though I had a master's in social work. So this idea of diagnosing people and sort of identifying them by, the most broken part of them just never sat with me. I was sort of more, where is their strength? Where is their resiliency? How, I didn't like the dynamic necessarily that was set up between me as the expert, right, or the therapist, and the client as being someone, who was sick or not well. So there were a lot of things about the medical model that didn't work well for me. And again, I know many people have been helped through talk therapy, through traditional therapy, and there are so many different types of people who seek therapy. I certainly understand the need for some of those models with certain clients, but I just was not resonating with it. And so I sort of went on a journey. I call it my period of divine discontent, right? And initially, I thought that I was just going on a journey to find different ways to work with clients. But what I realized, and this is how spirit works, is that it was really my own journey of healing and spiritual awakening. And along the way, I won't get into, all the details, but along the way, I became trained in, 6 or 7 different kind of energy healing modalities, starting with therapeutic touch and Reiki and DNA activation and serenity vibration healing and theta healing and a whole bunch of other things, which were all wonderful, not necessarily, Hainan, not necessarily transferable in a therapy setting. However, when people come in for therapy, they expect to talk, not, just have me doing energy work on them. So, but the tools, the energy tools that I was learning, and I was becoming completely immersed in metaphysics and spirituality and really that whole world. It started to drive me in a way that I couldn't resist, right? I was reading everything I could get my hands on, listening to channel messages. I laugh. I say I had more uploads, downloads, activations, regressions, attunements, retunements. And those of you who have been down this road, I hope you're laughing because we know this, right? We get all this stuff done along the way. And eventually I was called to ministry, and I did a 2-year program in the Seminary of Spiritual Peacemaking, which was 15 years ago now. So I had this unquenchable hunger for understanding, for awakening, that really continues to this day. But what I want to say about that is it really set the groundwork for what I'm going to speak about tonight. Because especially early on, hi Tammy, especially early on, it was mind-blowing to me that every article I picked up, every blog post I read, every book I picked up, every channeled message I listened to, every healing that I got for myself, the guided messages that I was getting when I was writing, everything pointed to a period in time that would be coming. I'm going to refer to it as the ascension. Other people refer to it as other things, but my understanding of it was an ascension process where we would be moving from our dense third dimensional reality, time, space, whatever, those 3 dimensions, into a higher vibrating 5th dimensional reality. And, some of this sounded crazy to me in the beginning. I was like, what? How does that even happen, right? And talking about how literally on a cellular level, we would be changing from carbon-based humans into crystalline-based humans. And I didn't understand it all. Some of it I just dismissed, and I'll say that tonight. Take what resonates with you, let the rest go. Not everything is meant for everybody at every time, but I'm just sharing my journey with you. So what really blew my mind, though, was no matter what medium it came to me through, text, reading, writing, activations, music even, everything was pointing to this process, this age of Aquarius, this ascension process that we were in. And the common denominator, everybody talked about it a little bit differently, which was interesting to me. And I used to say, well, this can't be a conspiracy theory because basically they're all saying the same thing. But, some of these people wrote 50 years ago. Some people are just coming out now. So they couldn't have, put this all together and planned it like a great big conspiracy, right? So, but what it talked about is that in this period of time when we were going to make this transformation from the 3rd dimension to the 5th dimension, everything that was basically of the 3rd dimension, all of our structures, all of our institutions, so, economics, banking, religious, educational, the health system, social structures, everything as we knew it was going to have to basically fall apart. Like everything was going to have to crumble so that something new and different could arise. And I used to be like, how the heck is that going to happen? How can every institution that we live by, the media, the banking, all of it, how can it possibly all fall apart to allow something else to come forward? It was mind-boggling to me. It for 20, 25 years, as long as I've been in this world. But everything was pointing to this, and that has continued, over time. People are still talking about it, and now we're in, within the precession of the planets in the 26,000 year cycle. We are in the middle of the photon belt, which is pouring more and more photon light energy onto the planet, which is literally pushing everything that's dark, that has been hidden in the shadows. There's no place for it to hide anymore. It's both an individual and a collective phenomenon, right? Everything that happens on an individual, personal basis is reflected in the collective and vice versa. So this light energy is coming into each person, bringing everything that has not been healed, that has been unresolved in their own personal history, and that may be this lifetime, it may be past lifetimes, it may be through their ancestors. I've been, it's been coming up with more and more women that I'm working with in the last couple of weeks, where they're making connections between what's happened to them and then also what's happened through the female ancestry on both sides. So there's this individual, familial, ancestral, and collective coming to the surface of everything that has been heavy and dense and in the shadows. It all has to be revealed until it can be healed. So I hope that makes sense. So all of these structures that are collapsing, are falling apart, have really been the result of the imbalance. This is, again, my understanding. Take what works for you, leave the rest. My understanding is that it has been an egoic, masculine energy that has been out of balance. And I'm not saying men or any man in particular. This is not about bashing our brothers, our fathers, our sons. This is about an energy that comes from the egoic masculine, not the divine masculine that's protective, right, and provides space and all the wonderful characteristics of a loving, caring father. But the egoic masculine is based on getting ahead at no cost, and greed, and power over, and no consideration of what's being done to the environment, to the planet, to the creatures that live on her, to all of the natural resources. And before going into seminary about 15 years ago, I started getting very clear messages that my mission on the planet was to be one of the people, God knows, not just me, but to begin to balance the masculine and the feminine energy, really to create a new heaven on earth. So this has been my perspective, my way of looking at everything that's been happening over the last 20 plus years. I see this all within the framework of this ascension process, this influx of light onto the planet that's forcing everything that's been hidden, that's been in the dark, that's been in the shadow, to the surface. As I see more and more and more people waking up, being trained as energy healers, stepping forward as light workers, noticing their intuition and their mediumship skills and their channeling beginning to blossom with healing opportunities and healing beds and essential oils and all the wonderful things that are sort of on the edges. And my belief is, on the other side of this pandemic, we now have the opportunity for all of this to come forward, literally to create this heaven on earth, right? This, to bring this age of Aquarius, whatever it is, 2,000 years of peace and harmony and prosperity, right? There's an opportunity now for that to be grounded in as all of the other structures that have been suppressing the energies of the feminine, right? Cooperation and intuition and nurturing and forgiveness and sometimes stronger energies than that, but those energies that have been suppressed and repressed by the egoic masculine are now coming back into balance. In fact, my ministry program, that was one of the basic tenets, and it was one of the things that called me into that program. Besides being based on the work of Saint Francis and Lady Clare, was also Yeshua and Magdalene, and it was about the divine complement of the divine masculine and the divine feminine coming back into balance. And so this also has been, much a part of my own personal work. I grew up with 6 brothers. My energy was about as masculine as you could get. Driven, competitive, analytical, right? Judgmental. I had my work cut out for me for many, 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 many years before, I was in any kind of position to be, really, really giving voice to these things. But isn't that the way? I mean, it was the perfect, the family system that I was born into with all that masculine energy and losing my mom early on. It was like the perfect, what do I want to say? It was the perfect garden for me to grow into who I came onto this planet to be. So this is my belief. This is the higher perspective, or seeing this current situation through a spiritual lens, through higher eyes. We can keep our eyes on the newsreel or on the gutter or whatever, and get completely freaked out with the reports and the deaths and all of that. And again, I'm not minimizing any of that. I in fact just got off the phone with my daughter who lives in New York City, and she's very, very social. This is the first time she's lived on her own. She's 27 years old. And all of a sudden, yesterday and today, she's just kind of falling apart, living in the right in New York City by herself, isolated. And so I'm not minimizing the very real impact of this on anybody. But I am encouraging as much as possible for each person to really think about, is there something bigger going on here? If God is everywhere in everything, God, Goddess, right? Creator, source, is omnipresent, right? Whatever else. I'm forgetting the words. Potent, omnipotent, right? It means God is in this too. And what that says to me is that there is a higher order to this. There is a divine order here, even though we can't see it yet. And we may not see it for a long time. But I don't believe that this is a random occurrence. I believe that this is part of a continuum that is moving us out of this dense third dimensional energy into a higher vibrating energy that's causing everything that's not in alignment with that higher vibration to collapse, right? In coaching, we call it, the breakdown before the breakthrough. I'm sure you've all heard that. You got to have your breakdown before you can have your breakthrough. Well, this is a collective breakdown. This is a collective dark night of the soul, right? This is about, as dark as it's going to get for most of us, in this lifetime anyway. Some of us may have lived through this kind of thing in other lifetimes. I imagine that most of the people in my circle have been down this road before in some way, shape, or form, right? Whether we lived in some lifetime or multiple lifetimes, where we've lived through crusades or plagues or being burned at the stake or, whatever it is, whatever you want to call it, we've probably been there. And I firmly believe that this is the time, to coin a phrase, we are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the ones we've been waiting for. I'm seeing names on this list. Marianne's here. I just saw Rita, Catherine. I know each and every one of you is here as a light worker, as a way shower, as someone to anchor in the divine feminine energy on this planet so that we can create a more sustainable, loving world. That's it. Period. This is, and if some of you happen to be in my Facebook group, Birth Your Brilliance, you'll notice I changed the name of it today. After, sitting with this, and feeling like it was time for me to step up and really talk about what is in my heart. Not that I haven't been doing that, but in a new way, in literally more of a leadership way. And so the new name of my Facebook group is Divinely Inspired Feminine Leaders. And I think every woman who's on this live right now with me is called to be a divinely inspired feminine leader. You already are. You already are. And we know that even if we don't feel quite ready, even if we're, like me, who me? Well, of course you. If not you, who, right? If not now, when? If this isn't the time for all of us to step up and hold a higher vibration, a higher perspective, a more spiritual view of things, to spend time doing our inner work, to discover what is mine to do here. What is the unique gift that I came to this planet with? We did not show up at this time in history to sit back. No way. No way. Your soul chose to be here because it knew all hell was going to break loose in this lifetime, and you have a part to play. So, all right, I just got up on the soapbox there for a moment. That was fun. Preach it, sister. All right, I think I will. So, here are a few things. I'm just looking at what Tammy, focusing on authenticity as we are watching the shredding of illusion. Absolutely. Absolutely. Everything that is not in alignment is falling apart. So what can you do? I have a list of a few things that I want to share, and that I hope, hallelujah, Peggy says, that I hope you will seriously consider doing some of these. So the first is, and excuse me while I look at my paper here because I don't have these memorized, to participate in the meditation, both on this page and on my newly changed group page. And also, if you're on my mailing list, you got an email today letting you know about the global meditation that's going to happen tomorrow. Tomorrow is a very important day astrologically. I'm not going to pretend that I know anything about astrology. I just know that there's some big conjunction going on that makes tomorrow a super, super, super potent day. And so there is a 20-minute worldwide global meditation. It's posted on my pages. It's, as I said, if you're on my email list, you can see it there. If you have a question about it, just reach out to me and I'll give you the information. But in the United States, it will be 10:45 tomorrow night, 20-minute meditation. And there are instructions in the link about sort of how to hold the vision that they're inviting people to hold. So one, participate in the meditation. the other Michelle, I didn't come here to play. Well, I hope we're going to have some play in there, right? We can't not play through the whole thing, but I hear you. Susan Crimmins, nice to see you. So participate in the global meditation. Create 10:45 p.m. Yes, create and hold your own higher vision. What is your idea of heaven on earth? If you could create the ideal vision for what we will birth into being through and after this coronavirus, what does that look like for you? What does that look like in terms of the environment? What does that look like in terms of money? What does that look like in terms of how families are functioning, how our educational system, how our medical system? Just sit with, what is my vision for heaven on earth? And then what is my unique contribution to that? The third thing I would say is, in terms of this coronavirus, limit your exposure. Limit your exposure to the news, because that is just going to keep your nervous system revving. It's going to be like your car's in neutral and you're stepping on the gas, right? And you're just revving it up and revving it up. So limit your exposure, 5 minutes a day if you need to know what the newest numbers are. And limit your exposure to people, not just in the terms of physical distancing, but who am I listening to? Who am I in conversation with? Do they build me up, or do I feel like crap after I talk to them, right? Are they just full of doom and gloom and worry, right? So have compassion, send love, hold them in prayer, but be aware of where your energy is going, where you're putting your energy, and who may be sucking your energy, and begin to limit that exposure. And some of this is very practical now. Create some routines for yourself, because we don't know how long this is going to be. So the more you can create routines for each day, you know, for me, that means doing my Wim Hof breathing when I wake up, and then doing my morning yoga with Adrian, and then spending some time in prayer and meditation. I've even started doing the cold shower thing. I warm it up first and then I at the end. But to boost my immune system, most days I get out to walk a few miles. Today, not so much, because I'm just really waiting for the weather to be a little better. But find some routines, healthy eating, right? Finding some ways to connect with people socially, even if we can't be in physical, connection to each other, because we're made to be social beings, right? And the isolation can be hard. So reach out, find ways to reach out, get some exercise, do some tapping, right? When things are coming up. I've got my tapping group running now. If you want to join us, yay, Yoga with Adrian. There's still 6 more sessions left, Wednesday and Friday at 4 p.m. There's information on that on my Facebook pages too. If you can't find it, reach out to me. Monitor your thoughts. Notice when you're taking yourself down the rabbit hole. And, we are all going to have some ups and downs, right? We're all going to be riding a roller coaster through this. Just notice when you need to process some emotion. Again, do it through tapping or getting out and walking or having a dance party in your house or whatever you have to do. Acknowledge the emotion, feel it, move through it, move your energy, and then, right, put your attention someplace else. Be careful not to spiral down into some rabbit hole of fear and anxiety and worry. The other thing that I want to say about that is that whenever we're under a lot of stress, and we all are now, even if you're not necessarily personally feeling stress. Hey, Mara, nice to see you. Even if you're not person who's stressed because you have a loved one who's working in healthcare, or, whatever your exposure may be limited. The fact of the matter is there is collective stress. All of our nervous systems are under stress, right? The revving engine. Our central nervous systems are humming. Our amygdala, that fight or flight response, is turned on. And just know that that's going to sort of take its toll on you. And if you have trauma in your past, if you have struggled with post-traumatic stress response, just know that you are at a greater likelihood to be experiencing, thanks Linda, to be experiencing perhaps some more intense discomfort than some other people. So I'm going to just give a quick example. Someone I know who was terrified to go outside or go to the grocery store, mostly go to the store, but she's a single mom, her kids need to eat, she's got to go, right? And we were talking about this the other day, and she talked about sort of having this medical anxiety. It started when she was a teenager. And we started to explore that a little bit. And so there's sort of two sides to the anxiety. One is she wants to be running to the doctor all the time to make sure she's okay. But there's another part of her that's terrified if she has some tests done, what the results might be. And so we did some tapping, we did some talking, we did a little guided imagery, we were kind of playing around with this. Well, it turns out that as a teenager, she became pregnant. So we explored it, and it wasn't about the pregnancy so much that held the trauma for her, although there certainly were traumatic incidents in that, but that didn't seem to be the most triggering. But as I felt like I was being such a pain in the neck because I just kept asking another question and another question, and I'm like, oh, she is just going to get so pissed off at me here. But I asked one question, and all of a sudden she had this aha moment, and she said, oh my God, I just remembered that when I saw my doctor, it was right at the beginning of the AIDS epidemic, and she was told that she had to be tested, and the results took like a week to come back. She said, I sat, practically next to the phone for a week, terrified, and that's when my panic attacks started. So she made the connection between the fear around medical stuff, but also as it relates now. There's this virus, it's out there, back then and now, the ways that it can get past were maybe unclear. Even if you have the test, it doesn't, so there were just a lot of correlations between what was going on then when her panic and anxiety started and what's going on now. And just understanding that connection for her dropped that down, because she's like, okay, I'm not crazy. Like, this isn't just me being crazy. There's a reason. Her nervous system was remembering the vibration, right? The cellular experience, the energetic and the emotional frequency of that thing that she's experienced almost 30 years ago, and it's getting triggered and revved up now. So just know, if you've had some trauma in your past, there's a chance that you're going to be feeling this perhaps in a more intense way than other people. Just a last couple thing. The next thing related to that is then, so do your inner work, right? Find somebody to work with. There's so many resources now on YouTube, but work with your inner child, do your tapping, do some visualization, do some journaling. Take this time when we have the time to sit with yourself and go deep. Give yourself permission to check in with the younger parts of yourself, right? See who needs healing. See who's still hurt in there. See who you can reparent. If you had parents who really didn't parent you well, This is your work now. And it will be coming to the surface during this period of time. And finally, I think the last thing that I want to say is, in the midst of all of this, practice gratitude. Practice gratitude. We know from the work of Bruce Lipton primarily, but lots of other people now, but Bruce, I think, was one of the first scientists to tell us that when we can shift our thoughts and the related emotions from anger and fear and worry into joy and appreciation and gratitude for as little as 17 seconds, it starts to make changes in our DNA at the cellular level. The markers start to change. So imagine what can happen if you start practicing gratitude on a regular basis. Every time you do, you're moving yourself up on that vibrational guidance scale, whether you use the map of consciousness by Dr. Hawkins or the emotional guidance scale from Abraham Hicks. We all know that every emotion has a corresponding vibrational frequency, right? Shame is at the bottom. Joy, appreciation, gratitude, freedom are at the top, and everything else is in between. When we can move out of those heavier, denser emotions into the higher vibrating emotions, we are healing ourselves mentally, emotionally, and physically. And the impact on that, on us over time, is pretty mind-blowing. That reminds me of one more thing. I knew there was something else I was going to say. Somebody sent me something from, there was some scientific reference, but I don't remember where from. But basically it was talking about the pH level, the frequency of the actual coronavirus. And I'm going to post this actually after I finish this, because I don't remember the exact numbers, but it's just like essential oils. Essential oils vibrate above the frequency of illness. So when we use essential oils, it basically can kill off the lower vibrating energies of whether it's Epstein-Barr or, Streptococcus or cancer or the common cold. It's all about the alkalinity and the vibrational frequency. And so there was a recommendation for certain foods, right? Lemon, ginger, avocado, pineapple, basically things that were going to help to create a more alkaline environment. So pay attention to what you're putting in your body. I know the temptation to eat the Ben and Jerry's and the potato chips is hard, right? Make sure you're balancing that out with foods that are in higher vibration, foods that are alive, foods that have energy, supplements if you can't, get a lot of the actual food themselves. But just be aware of what you're putting in your body to support it as much as possible during this time. So I have no idea. Oh, baby. I've been talking for like 50 minutes. Alrighty then. It's probably time for me to wrap it up. So, let's just do this for another moment. And so let us all be in a moment of gratitude. Grateful so much for all of you who joined me this evening. Grateful for the love and the support that you show me, and grateful for the light that you all shine in the world. Grateful for this opportunity to be together in our hearts, in our spirits, holding each other in love and light and prayer and healing. I'll invite you, if you're not already, thanks, Tammy and Peggy. If you're not already in my newly named Facebook group, please feel free to come on over to Divinely Inspired Feminine Leaders and ask anybody you know who you know for sure is or is aspiring to be. Oh, hi, Mara. I miss you too, honey. I do think about you. Every time I drive down Ellington Avenue and I see the home there, I think of you. So bring yourself over, invite your friends over. I really am hoping that will become a place where, women who are really ready to step up. And, that line is, the goddess, I'm paraphrasing, the goddess doesn't only call those who are ready. She readies those who are called. So if you feel called, even if you're not exactly sure what that means, if you feel called to serve in a bigger way, to shine your light more brightly, to connect with a community of women, to balance the masculine and feminine energy on the planet, right? If you're called to any of that, and even things that I didn't say, we've got a place for you. I hope you'll join us. I hope you'll join us in the meditation tomorrow evening, and keep on shining your lights, all you beautiful ladies. And I will talk to you soon. All right. Love you. Namaste.